The largest Ponzi scheme in history was run by the man that used to be the actual president of NASDAQ, Bernie Madoff. Yeah, he even sat on SEC advisory committees. He was put behind bars. Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes dazzled us with mythical technology for blood tests. Fraud. She was recently sentenced to 11 years in prison. Sam Bankman-Fried practiced incredible deception, lying, malfeasance, and millions of investors have now lost money on his bankrupt crypto exchange, FTX. One of these three criminals reportedly said, "They don't put pretty people like me in jail." I'll tell you who that is. And one of these people even said that he just merely lied in a certain way to strategically make it all sound ethical. Check this out. Two of these three made the cover of Forbes. Also, have you noticed how closely the name Sam Bankman-Fried resembles scam, bankrupt, fraud? My gosh. Settle in. I'm talking about these three frauds today, and by the end of this video, you'll see how bad it got and what you can learn from it. There actually are four distinct lessons here. Hi, I'm Keith Weinhold. This is Get Rich Education. First of all, I feel awful for anyone that lost money with these people. Bernie Madoff, first of all. You know, of course, all scammers kind of have their shtick, and those that fell for his hustle wanted to believe that this fatherly figure from Queens had the magic touch and was super savvy in the markets and was looking out for their interests and would help them retire in style. And if you could actually convince him to let you in the door, this Madoff bond took care of you and your kids in perpetuity. Well, the promised guaranteed returns turned out to be a complete mirage because nothing in finance can ever be guaranteed, but this was a classic Ponzi. And the definition of a Ponzi scheme is when the early investors get paid off by new investors. It has nothing to do with actual investment returns. And Bernie Madoff is not alive. He died in prison in 2021. More recently, Elizabeth Holmes' hustle was this sort of well-cultivated image of tech geek cool. She faked her Steve Jobs act right down to wearing a black turtleneck and having a husky voice. So Holmes dropped out of Stanford to start Theranos, and that attracted high-profile investors like Rupert Murdoch and board members like Henry Kissinger. Yeah, they were all caught up in this, and it grew into a $10 billion company. But the problem? She claimed Theranos had technology that could perform tons of tests on a single drop of blood, but it couldn't, and yet that still didn't stop her from rolling the tech out to patients anyway. And once the Wall Street Journal exposed the truth and regulators came calling, both the company and Holmes' wealth were wiped out. Poof. It was a fraud. The technology did not work, and she knew it. And just last month, she was sentenced to 11 years in prison for defrauding investors, but yet Holmes still doesn't report to jail for 4 months. That might have something to do with the fact that she's pregnant. And that 11-year sentence, that's less than the 15 years the prosecutors wanted, but a whole lot more than the 18 months of house arrest that her lawyers advocated for. And by the way, on the white-collar prison time scale ranging from Martha Stewart's 5 months to Bernie Madoff's 150 years, Holmes' sentence for what the judge estimated to be $121 million worth of scamming, that right there is probably starting to make Sam Bankman-Fried a little nervous about that disappearing $16 billion. There is even a Hulu series on Elizabeth Holmes' fraud, and while sentencing Holmes for deceiving investors, the judge said that he wouldn't add time for the harm that she did to Theranos patients, the actual patients, so it could have been worse. But the judge said that he would consider her complete failure to take responsibility. The government claimed that Holmes once said, "They don't put pretty people like me in jail." The audacity. Just incredible. Now, Sam Bankman-Fried, known by his initials SBF, who ran that now disgraced crypto exchange FTX, he was previously deemed as a genius and an industry savior. He was almost deified. And celebrities like Shark Tank's Kevin O'Leary and NFL quarterback Tom Brady, they endorsed FTX, they invested in FTX, they got others to invest in FTX. So you know it's trustworthy then, right?
You know he's going to invest better, too.
FTX, that's the crypto app, right?
Now it's for all kinds of investing. It's better.
FTX was basically a crypto bank. So depositors, people like you, they parked their money in crypto over there at FTX because they could generate yield. Well, when depositors learned that his bank was making risky bets with their deposits, those depositors made a run on the bank. They made mass withdrawals. Well, FTX soon had to freeze withdrawals because it had lost so much of their money that they couldn't repay it and meet all those withdrawals. Yeah, previously SBF was deemed really like the industry's white knight that actually bailed out other failing crypto exchanges. Look at this from CNBC.
We very well may lose that 70 million. I don't know if we're seeing it again.
Yeah, we may very well lose that $70 million. I don't really know if we're seeing it again. Yeah, that $70 million over there is gone. But that's just $70 million. It doesn't matter, so what?
Do you still have enough cash if you needed to do another bailout?
Yeah, we did. And we try to keep that on hand. Like, we try not to empty the coffers, so to speak. We had a couple billion going into this. And, it lines up roughly with the amount that we'd raised.
Yeah, I've got another billion or so, and that kind of matches up with what we've raised lately, I guess. Gosh. Isn't it incredible how closely the name Sam Bankman-Fried resembles scam, bankrupt, fraud? That's just amazing. And by the way, I recently learned that phenomenon is called nominative determinism. Yeah, nominative determinism. It's the hypothesis that people tend to gravitate toward areas of work that fit their names. And do you like the FTX Monopoly board here? Go to jail, go to jail, go to jail. SBF's hustle was the diversionary technique of he really faked his way into the hearts and the minds of the media and the financial elite just so that they didn't bother him and examine the logical holes in his business model, and the signs of those holes were certainly there. So he amassed his paper fortune, around $16 billion, on the back of this dubious crypto token he made up called FTT. And then there were these untoward links between his FTX crypto exchange and this prop trading fund that he ran on the side. And he actually made a lot of money for a time. SBF was even compared to Warren Buffett by Fortune magazine. Some people had called him the JP Morgan of crypto. And yeah, look at this. Both he and Holmes made the covers of Forbes at various times. My gosh, SBF earned nearly all his money in about 3 short years. How did SBF really pull it off? Well, he went to MIT, so that sort of gave him this guise of smartness and marketability to investors. And he also wore this mop of hair. He often wore a hoodie and lots of t-shirts and shorts. So that might have made him hip to the fawning tech media that were kind of always on the lookout for the next nonconformist to change the world. And during our Fed-induced financial bubble and the accompanying irrational exuberance that came in crypto, he was just kind of able to ride the wave of easy money and low interest rates and complete crypto trading opacity. And he may have been smart, but real skillful traders avoid life-altering losses by seeing markets turning against them and then just moving on. And when crypto began to correct and crash, SBF, he famously doubled down. He famously doubled down by buying out other distressed crypto exchanges that were in a lot of disrepair and trouble, and really that should have been a sign of his deception a few months earlier. But yet no one asked where he got the money to do all this, because he built up such a reputation as a do-gooder who was just kind of sort of a guy on the right side of investing. He gave the Democratic Party $10 million, and he fueled and funded Biden and his campaign, and that type of thing probably bought him some cover. He spoke incessantly about the need for the super wealthy like him to embrace something known as effective altruism. You make money for the purpose of giving it back to make the world a better place, and he drove this really modest car that kind of helped fuel this image that he was just giving it all away, and the financial press just ate that stuff up. And you know, the absurdity of it all, that didn't stop Sequoia Capital, a venture capital company, from giving him money, or from news anchors begging SBF for fawning interviews, or Congress from getting his 2 cents on regulatory matters and kind of upping his cred that way. And after all the misconduct was revealed, SBF admitted that sometimes he said things just specifically to sound ethical. Like, he actually said that about what he said, which is incredible. And is it incredibly honest? Oh no, you're just being honest about lies. Now, as for some lessons learned here from all these 3 big frauds, really here are 4 big lessons. Number 1, you cannot trust anyone more than yourself. Number 2, celebrity endorsers, they are not a reason for you to invest in something yourself. I mean, you might know more about investing than a celebrity like Tom Brady does. And the 3rd lesson is that don't let others do your due diligence for you. Now, Sequoia Capital, they were perceived as smart money, and they lost big in FTX. So what some individual investors did is that they saw Sequoia already invested in FTX, so they thought they could just sort of piggyback on their due diligence, and that backfired. And the 4th and final lesson is be a direct owner of as many assets that's practical for you. When you own a piece of real estate with a tenant in it, some things could be hidden from you for a little while, I suppose, but ultimately you really are the one in control. Not only do you get to screen your tenant up front, you know what's happening. You know that you've got the rent, and you know where it came from. Well, hey, leave a like on the video if you approve of the content and lesson today. I'm Keith Weinhold. I'll see you in the next video.